All right, let's get Bonfire Midweek fired up. What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside the show. I am live in the Grey Cup City here in Regina. Zach Schnitzer joining me as always, back in the home base, the heartland of Blue Bomber Nation. Zach, everybody knows you are a super fan. I can't imagine how excited you and your fellow blue and gold brethren and sisters and et cetera are feeling this week. But as a media member here, in the Grey Cup City, you can feel the electricity watching practice today, kind of milling about the city a little bit. This is going to be a heck of a Grey Cup, and we're going to get into it all on the show tonight.
Oh, buddy, I am just revved up for this. Like, it's already Wednesday. I just can't wait, buddy. But I don't want it to come to Sunday right away. It's just the anticipation is golden, and all the great content you're putting out, and you and the Hammer out there. I can't imagine how fun that carpool was to Regina, buddy. What were you guys listening to? Were you just rocking the tunes?
So here's the thing: had to pull a bit of an audible.
What?
Zach, as you know, and some others do too, out there, and thanks to those that sent me some well wishes. Somebody tweeted at me today, how you feeling, DB? I'm feeling like about $150, which is pretty good. You can buy yourself a nice dinner for $150 and then have some scratch left over to go out on the town for a little bit. But no, all joking aside, I was bit by something over the weekend. Got it out of me, sweated out of me, did whatever I needed to do to get healthy and good to go. Took a whole bunch of tests, all negative, feeling better, but still definitely on the mend. Energy, 80%. You know what? But for day one of practice, just like Zach Collaros, I'm taking it a little easy, not getting too in. Look, the game is still 5 days away, right? So let's take our time. Let's ensure we have what we need to be ready when it counts. And that's the 109th Grey Cup on Sunday. And Zach, that's where really we have to get things going. Day one, Argos practice at Mosaic. Day one, Blue Bombers practice at Libel Field. It's the Regina Minor Football Association field. Beautiful complex, beautiful turf field, and buildings kind of surrounding. I don't know why the Blue Bombers decided to practice there. Maybe they're, just being extra cautious, keep all eyes and ears, that they know about in front of them and that sort of thing. But no Zach Collaros at Blue Bombers practice today, was not on the field, and no indications from the team that he did anything physically here on Wednesday. Now, that said, Drew Brown ran everything on the offense. And for those that maybe aren't exactly sure what's going on, Zach Collaros did get his ankle rolled up on him in the West Final late in the fourth quarter, had it taped up, tried to get back out onto the field, just said, it's not working. After the game, he spoke to media, which I think is a fantastic, very positive indication, Zach, that Zach Collaros is going to be okay. This is day one of practice, right? So I think the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Zach Collaros, everybody, they're just being cautious right now. He doesn't need the practice. He doesn't need the reps. So don't put unnecessary strain on something that's a little bit tweaked. He hopped off the plane yesterday. Yeah, he might be a little stiff, might be a little limp, with walking with a bit of a limp, but all things considered, and just my gut feeling and some of the, scuttlebutt around the Grey Cup City, he's going to be good to go for Sunday. So I think Bomber fans are excited to hear that.
My only concern, Darrin, is it normal for a player who's injured and maybe questionable to just not even be on the practice field?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then someone like Zach Collaros, right? Because all the cameras are going to be focused on him.
Right.
And
they don't want to give anything away, basically.
Well, I don't even know if it's about giving anything away. That's a great question by you. I think it's just, the team and the whole area, the whole practice field. I don't think they need the distraction of, all that energy. Like, you got to think about it. This isn't just like a city or two media.
Yeah.
This is the entire country's sports media is here for the most part, right?
So you're saying
Not
the coaches and
every-
players don't want the distraction of all these media people just
well, just
vulturing onto Zach Collaros and watching his every move.
yeah, like just imagine 15 cameras and 30 reporters, pundits, analysts, and the like, with smartphones and
Yeah.
talking and all of it.
Yep.
It's just a lot of energy. It's a lot of energy. You don't really know what that's like until you've been in those moments. Stanley Cup playoffs, at a Grey Cup. It's a real palpable thing. So I think it's smart to maybe work Zach Collaros out a little bit in the morning. Have him run around a little bit, get acclimatized to the outdoor weather, as I'm sure he pretty much is for the most part. And then when it comes to actual practice, where the whole team is out there, let Drew Brown run things as he does when Zach needs some time.
It can't hurt for Brown to get the reps, right? The
Yeah,
only thing that concerns me, and tell me your perspective as someone who's right there, Darren, and has seen many a practice, you are running, you're not just running a random skelly, right? Like you're running against the defense is trying to replicate what Toronto's defense is going to
right,
do.
right.
So in that sense, I mean, how concerning is it for someone like Zach Collaros? Or is it not because he's not there that, maybe he's just seen it all, Darren, and it doesn't really matter. But, he's not maybe getting those reps against what he might ostensibly see from that Toronto defense and Corey Mays.
Right. Like this is the way I look at it. And I think it goes for pretty much all of the Blue Bombers veterans and really all the veterans across the CFL. Zach Collaros was an MOP candidate in 2015. He has played a lot of football. He has seen a lot. So for him to take a day or two here and there
Yeah.
of just not being out on the field, doing the things that they're combing through in the
Yeah.
film and the
Yeah.
books and the meeting rooms and the pictures and all of it, right? I don't see that as too big of a deal. For Zach Collaros, the most important thing, bar none, is that his ankle and frankly his whole body, mental, physical, the whole works, is at its optimal place on Sunday when they kick off just after 5 o'clock Central Time. And I
Yeah.
think, you could say, well, maybe the Blue Bombers are doing some cloak and dagger and, like they're sitting him day one to raise the question of if he's not available or not. The Blue Bombers and Zach Collaros himself, who has spoken about it since it happened, have been clear as day. In the words of Zach Collaros, we're good. We're good. That was to Farhan Lalji moments after the game ended. And then asked about it in a media conference at IG Field following the win over the BC Lions. Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press asked, is it a question, your availability for the Grey Cup? He says, no question.
Right.
I think he put it to bed right there. And I also, so people are now going to wonder, this is the next question, right? How much could it affect him? Well, if he misses a day of practice, you can't imagine he's going to be 100% on Sunday. But if he's 85, 90%, if he's 75, 80%, somewhere in there, I don't think anybody would want to see him suboptimal.
No.
But the reality is, pro football, nobody is 100%, and nobody, especially in this Blue Bombers team, are ever going to put a number on it. So, I think just having Zach Collaros available and him being able to walk on his own power and taking his time this week to just stay loose and fresh and ensure everything is good to go for Sunday. I'm not too concerned. Either are the odds makers. You go to SIA.com/bonfire. That number started at 4.5. It
Yeah.
went to 6 in less than 24 hours. People love the Blue Bombers. And I'm not talking about people like you, Zach, that wear blue and gold and the big W chain. Let's
Right.
take a look at that. Pull your
Oh
chain.
yeah. Well,
Let's see it.
Andrea was like, "Where's your chain, buddy?" And I was like, "I
There it
forgot
is.
to put it. I forgot to put it on. It was right there." For
Oh,
those
that's
who are
what you were
just
picking up
joining,
off.
like this chain is now a legend,
Yeah.
and
But I'm
there's a
talking people
lot of
that,
them, buddy. At the
yep.
Western Final, like, can you imagine how much money the Bombers made on this chain? Their margin must have it cost $39.99. It was probably their margin was $39.95. Like, It was basically a donation to the Blue Bombers organization,
Hey,
and happily done, buddy. But here's the thing: that I wonder, if Collaros wasn't going to play, would you not say that you're going to play? Like there is
sure.
a little bit of the nervous fan here, and I know I'm not the only
Right.
one. I'm looking at our Firestarter. There's some nervous fans. There's Kevin Sproul here. He's a nervous fan. I bet you Waiters and Jeff Cabillas and Lynn and Freezer.
Everybody has that anxiety, right?
Everybody's nervous, right?
For sure. Yep.
Like I'm nervous about, like, I everybody's saying the right things. Apparently, Davis Sanchez thinks it's a serious injury. I heard that. I saw that on the chat here. See, our fire starters, folks, they give us
They
gold
got us covered.
information, because even though you're as brilliant as I am, and you are too, Darrin, we can't know everything,
No, we do
but
the best we can. Hey,
we.
we're here for opinion and analysis, right?
But yeah,
I offer some reportage because that's my job, that's my profession. But in the end, we're here to sit around the bonfire and chop it up with the fire starters. And great to see everybody out there. Awesome numbers.
yeah.
Watching live on YouTube right now, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the rest. Head over youtube.com/bonfire sports. Give a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. And maybe the best thing you can do is tell a friend, because Grey Cup week, we got you covered top to bottom. And if you're not in Regina for the Grey Cup, where should you be? Shannon's Irish Pub and Eatery, 175 Carlton, right in the heart of downtown, just a quick shot down the block from True North Square. It's around all the action. There's a Jets game on Thursday, a Jets game on Saturday, the Grey Cup on Sunday. They are open every single Jets home and away game. They will be open for the Grey Cup, and it is an awesome spot. Like, we've talked about the food so much here, Zach. The wild boar burger, the venison burger are must-try items. I love their wings. They are legit. Awesome drinks, like 21 beers on tap, rotating specials all the time. Tons of Jets and Grey Cup Blue Bombers game day specials as well, where you can get some pretty sweet deals on like a drink and a burger platter and that sort of thing. But they have got some amazing food choices, and one of just the most iconic cool spots in downtown Winnipeg, under the streets. And really just a one of a kind spot. There's a reason Shannon's has been around as long as it has. I strongly encourage you to get down there, taking the Grey Cup, taking the Jets games this week, or maybe pop in there before or after you're headed to Canada Life Center.
Oh, I love it when you got to come back with the saucer pass. I love it when you say the saucer pass
Yeah.
away from Canada Life Center,
Just a little
buddy.
saucer down the
Little
street.
saucer, because they got the sauce there.
They do.
Amazing, buddy. Yeah, I cannot wait to do our bonfire rap party there, buddy.
Yeah.
Not like singing rap, but like rap with the
Wrap
W,
it up.
folks. For the W with the rap. Dude, I am just off the hook excited. Like, it's Grey Cup. I apologize to everybody right now. I was a little bit meh after the West final.
Dude, you ran up and down the stairs until you had no lungs left. I
Well,
don't
my
blame
knee
you for
was
being a
injured.
little
I couldn't
fatigued.
run, but here's what happened: is I got home and it was a disaster zone at my house, so it kind of took the wind out of my sails. My son decided to try and bite everything that moved, and my daughter was screaming, lying on the floor for an hour, apparently. Anyway, you guys don't want to hear that, but it kind of took the wind out of my sails, and I did want the Bombers to come out with their A+ game and just crush the Lions. But here, listen, we made it. All that matters is we're in the Grey Cup, buddy. The only thing is, and I'm wearing my 2 cup rings, buddy, for good luck, and I freaking want 3. Like, here's the thing. We've gotten greedy, buddy. We want the Dynasty. The 3 in a row, like, 1 was amazing, 2 was extra special, but now I want 3. I've forgotten about 1 and 2. I want the 3rd in a row, because this culture, this organization deserves the 3rd in a row. And I don't say that, I don't say this very often, but because I think there's a great core group of about 10,000 Toronto Argonauts fans, and I'm going on the Argos Fancast podcast tomorrow. They're great guys. Listen, they have great fans. There's not enough of them, but who is it going to impact more? Bomber Nation is going to care more about winning than in Toronto. There, it's just like a drop in a bucket with a hole in the bottom.
Wow.
And we'll talk more about the matchup, buddy. But like, I was listening to a bunch of podcasts, reading analysis. Like, people people are calling for the Bombers to blow them out. And I don't know, man, but there's a Grey Cup and we're in it, and we're going for 3 in a row. Like, kill the ghost of 1960. Those who remember back then, we were going for 3 in a row, 58, 59 with Kenny Payne. Kenny Payne gets hurt.
Yeah.
And we don't even get to the Grey Cup. We lose that West final. Back in those days, buddy, it was 3 games. 3 games, and the East didn't even have to do that. They had one and dones. And we still almost won 3 in a row. But
well, let me ask you this, because after championships with Jim Van Pelt at quarterback and then Kenny Payne at quarterback in 58 and 59 respectively, they lost in 1960, but then went on to win in 61
Dynasty
and 62. So
Dynasty.
4 in 5 years versus 3 in a row, albeit within 4 years because of the missed 2020 season with COVID and the rest. What would you rather have? 3 straight to say you got like Orion's belt, or have 4 in 5 years with an Argonauts win this coming Sunday?
Well, if you put it that way, I'd want 4 in 5 years, of course. But I also want 4 in 4 years. Because here's the thing, Darrin, you never know.
Greedy.
I'm greedy, but it's sports, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, you never know what's going to happen in the following year. You know, sometimes you've seen this more than I have. You'd know, right? You see guys that just fall off a cliff, right? You see a guy that dominates. He falls off a cliff. Like, maybe that's Adam Bighill next year. Maybe Oliveira gets hurt. Maybe Stanley Bryant, he just reaches his expiration date as an all-star football player. Maybe Zach Collaros is hurt here. Like, so many things can happen in football. We don't know what Zach Collaros, everybody, yourself included, the experts, the analysts, the journalists, they think he's going to be okay, 80%.
Well,
maybe.
Ralph is asking, Troy is asking, appreciate you guys joining, albeit late. You can always go back and watch the beginning, but we made it pretty clear that Zach Collaros did not practice today, day 1. Tomorrow, Thursday, is a closed practice. Friday afternoon is an open practice again. So that's the next time we'll get eyes potentially on Zach Collaros. Drew Brown ran everything at practice today, but I would say the great majority of people do believe that Collaros is okay and that he will start and play on Sunday in the 109th Grey Cup. If you have your doubts, hey, head over to SIA.com/bonfire. You can get a juicy line right now, let alone using that specific link and a nice healthy bonus for yourself. Get yourself set up and, maybe you like the points. That line has moved like absolute gangbusters. But the reality is, it's not like Zach Collaros went down to injury and he never saw the field again. He's like, tape me up, let's go. Okay. Yeah. He jumps off the plane.
The Bombers video, apparently they had one version and then they cut down to a second version. And if you go on Facebook, you can see the full version.
Well, there's others that took video too. Yeah.
Right. So there's a bit of limping, but yeah, it's not like when Matt Nichols in 2019.
But he's walking downstairs.
He's walking. And I think Andrew Harris said it in the media stuff today, if he's walking, he's playing. If you can walk down the stairs of a plane, he's going to play. And he's a warrior. Jeff Hamilton, folks, if you haven't read Jeff Hamilton's piece, he actually went down to Steubenville, Ohio, the hometown of Zach Collaros, where he's like the guy, because he won the state championship there with the Big Reds or whatever they're called, Darrin. What I didn't know, and I figured he was competitive, but what Jeff Hamilton revealed in his Free Press article is that Zach Collaros is the most competitive athlete around. And that's saying something. This is a guy that when he was 8 years old and they were doing an Easter egg hunt with his big sister, he didn't go after his own Easter eggs, folks. He got her Easter eggs first. He took her chance to win. Like, you got to read that article.
You ensure your opponent doesn't win.
Like, right? What 8-year-old does that, right? Like, any 8-year-old I know is just going for their own eggs. So he's going to steal your eggs. This guy is like, I think he's going to play Darrin. It's just that, you know what it is, man? It's that this team deserves a three-peat. I think all of the injuries they've had, they went through the COVID year, the culture, this culture of this team, Kyle Walters and the scouts and the assistant GMs, McManus and Gavaya and Wade Miller, Mike O'Shea, all the position coaches. I mean, these guys have kept these people together in an era of 1-year contracts. You never see like a hiccup from this team. There's no fighting on the sideline like you see with Toronto. Everything is freaking rock solid, buddy. You see players that struggle like Demario Houston or Jamal Parker, and then in a few games you see them like, who is this guy? Like, this guy looks like a stud. Because when you play for this organization and you wake up at 5 a.m. and watch film, like Nick Taylor learned when Anthony Gator picked him up at 5 a.m. in 2019 when he joined the Bombers. He's like, oh, this is how you study film. Like, these guys do everything right, and they do it for the right reasons. They do it, and it's like, it just feels like they should get a three-peat. If anybody's going to get a three-peat, it should be them. And that's just, so if they don't, it just feels like we're kind of robbed. But then again, if you asked me in 2013, buddy, as a fan, if you told me we were going to get to 2 Grey Cups and win them, I'd be like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I could die happy. But now I think we all want 3. We all want 3. I need to fill this finger. Buddy, how did practice look to you? What, any other things that stood out to you and Hammer out there?
Well, I was just going to say first that I've said this for a few weeks now. Frankly, I've been thinking this for months. Anything less than a Grey Cup championship for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will be a disappointment of catastrophic proportions.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not saying they're going to blow it up if they don't win.
No
way. If Mike O'Shea wants to sign a contract with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, he will sign a contract.
Don't even
with the
go
Winnipeg
there.
Blue
That's
Bombers.
not even a conversation.
Right. So, well, at least not at this point. But if Winnipeg loses the way the entire season is gone, a franchise record 15 wins, Collaros probably going to come away with a second straight MOP award
For sure.
this coming week. I think that's on Friday. Dalton Schoen going to come home with the hardware himself. Stanley Bryant could come away with an unprecedented 3rd and 4 years, most outstanding offensive lineman. So if Winnipeg is not hoisting the mug on Sunday night, the reality is it's a letdown.
Yeah.
That all said, look, we've seen crazy things in the Grey Cup.
Totally.
We have seen weirder stuff than that. So buckle up, enjoy, and understand. If you're a Bombers fan, really, if you're just a CFL fan, relish in how entertaining the football is with this Winnipeg Blue Bombers team. Zach Collaros should play. I expect him to. And even if he can't move too much or break out of the pocket or have that same burst, his arm threat combined with the physical presence that is the offensive line and the way Brady Oliveira is running the football right now, mixed in, like the way Buck Pierce is kind of concocting that beautiful bouillabaisse, because it's just unbelievably
bouillabaisse. Right. Whoa, Darrin,
working.
This toque, buddy.
I don't know if Buck has any Italian in him, but either way,
is that Italian or French?
Is masterful right now.
I don't know.
And with the way that's all going, they don't need Zach to be this, Doug Flutie scramble around, make crazy throws and play. They don't need that. They need Zach to go operate the offense, and they need Brady to go out there and have the same type of game, and the offensive line, that they did a week ago against the BC line.
And you know what, Darrin? They should, because maybe I'm jumping ahead here because I want to hear more about practice, but they ran the ball down the throat of the felines last week, and they have a better run defense than Toronto. Statistically, they have a better run defense. I want to talk more about when we played Toronto way back in July, folks, or maybe it was August. Brady Oliveira was the leading rusher with 28 yards on 7 attempts.
Yeah.
So think about the difference that we have now with Brady Oliveira cooking like that.
Sure.
with Prukop and the really, I would say, quite refined, not only short yardage package with Dakota Prukop, but he was an absolute game changer against the Lions. Change of pace. They put him in at second and 2, 3, 4, even 5, Darren. And it's amazing because it's not Chris Strebler. It's different. It's a different feel. It's a different scheme, but it's the same effect where you keep people off balance. And I'll just say this before we get more into practice. Like, it's always the same thing with the Bombers. When they get the run game going, you pretty much cannot beat them unless something real freaky happens.
Agreed.
Like, when you look at that Toronto game in the summer, they didn't get the run game going. Toronto's defense played really well, especially as the game went on. We fell asleep in the second half, Darren, and they picked off Zach. Their DBs are very good. They by far have the most interceptions in the league. So if they make the Bombers one-dimensional, which I don't think they will, it's a game.
Yeah.
But you look at this rushing attack, which is the bread and butter, which they don't go away from it. It's not like Calgary where they rush 10 times, they don't get a lot of juice. They're gonna keep plugging away. And Brady is coming. He had his best game at the biggest moment of his career in front of his hometown. Imagine the pressure there.
Yeah.
Like, big time players make big time plays in big time games. I flubbed that last time, folks, but I got it this time.
You know what? I
Like,
flubbed that on when I was on the Waggle yesterday too.
hey,
Same
where is the way? I was looking for that today. They got to get it out there,
it'll
buddy.
be up shortly. But you know what? One
Nice.
of the things we talked about though was the
Yeah.
keys to each team's success.
Yeah.
And for me, the key for the Toronto Argonauts
Yeah.
is to stop the run.
Yeah.
And they
100%.
are capable of doing that. But you don't stop Brady Oliveira. You have to stop Michael Couture and Stanley Bryant and Jamarcus Hardrick and Jeff Gray. Patrick Neufeld, League All-Star, Patrick Neufeld. I've been trying to tell everybody for years now how good Patrick Neufeld is. He's 30 whatever now.
Nice to get an All-Star nod, eh, Darren?
Yes. He got a division a couple years
Yeah.
ago. Now he's a League All-Star and
Yeah.
deservedly so. And versatile. Regardless, they have to stop all of those guys. And
Yep.
as well as
Rashid Bailey, Wolatarski.
Yeah, Liam Dobson when he comes in those tight
Sure.
end sets, that sort of thing. Sean Oakman is a freak of nature at
Yeah,
defensive
he's
tackle, number 2
massive.
for the Argos on the interior. Jagarrett Davis, for those that have not heard, he is playing in his 6th straight Grey Cup.
He's the Marion Hossa of the CFL.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That guy. Think of the playoff bonus money he has earned. If people aren't aware out there, if you play in the CFL, you get a little chunk of change for every kind of playoff round you get to, and if you win the Grey Cup, you get a nice healthy bonus on top of the jewelry. But
6 in a row, right? And he only won once with Calgary in 18, right? He lost 16, 17, 19 with Hamilton, 21 with Hamilton, and now he's in number 6. That's insane. And
Yeah.
actually, when I heard they got Davis, I was like, I think Toronto's going to make the Grey Cup because they got Jagarrett Davis, right? And Andrew
Harris thought so too. That's why he signed there.
Sure. Smart guy, right?
Yep. But Winton McManus, Enoch Muamba, and their dime backer, Chris Edwards. To me, it was like a 1-2 race in the East for that all-star dime back spot, and it ended up going to Cameron Kelly of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And you can thank Cameron Kelly for making Alden Darby expendable and solidifying Winnipeg.
That's a good thank you, Cameron Kelly.
Dime back spot there. But that's the key for Toronto's defense to win. The key for Winnipeg's defense, as I explained on the Waggle on CFL.ca, that'll be out soon, but yesterday we recorded it.
Yeah.
Was the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defense? Yeah, they need to absolutely focus on Andrew Harris, focus on AJ Ouellette. You can call it a two-headed monster, very capable, talented tailbacks. You know Andrew Harris is going to be playing with fire running through his veins. He said it on day 1 of availability of Grey Cup week. It's personal. He wants to show the Blue Bombers despite being friends with Brady Oliveira, despite being good old friends with Nick Dembski and a whole bunch of other
He
guys.
called Collaros after Collaros got injured. I mean, they're all
Yep.
buddies.
Yep. No, like he's got those close ties, but he wants to stick it to the team that decided to move on from him and show them, yeah, you know what? I had a torn pec. I had surgery. 13 weeks goes by. First touch. I'm in the end zone to help my team win the East Division. And here they are in Grey Cup. And will it be a Bombers three-peat or an Andrew Harris three-peat? To me, that will be fascinating. But the key to the Bombers defense, Zach, is to not allow McLeod Bethel-Thompson to beat you deep. The guy's arm is legit.
Yep.
You cannot sleep on McLeod Bethel-Thompson. And I know that's cliche. I say that about a lot of quarterbacks. Can't sleep on Dane Evans. Can't sleep on Nathan Rourke. Can't sleep on
Jeremiah Masoli, right? Like Trevor Harris, sure.
Yeah.
They're all capable.
They're all capable of 450 yard games, right?
Sure.
If McLeod Bethel-Thompson gets into a shootout match with the Blue Bombers, that's where I think things could get a little bit touch and go and a little bit dangerous for Winnipeg. They need to ensure that Toronto does not beat them deep. Brandon Alexander is going to be critical. Are they going to go after Desmond Lawrence? Well, Derek Taylor, CGOB, pointed out that he has 5 pass knockdowns in 2 games, which is a huge number.
He's 5th on the team already. He's had, played 3 games?
Yeah.
Well, they talked about going after Jamal Parker because he's only 5'8". Maybe throw
I don't care how tall these guys are.
But if you throw a big, then you can just, MBT, we call him MBT, McLeod Bethel-Thompson. I'm going to call him MBT. That's too many syllables. He could, it's like what Rourke does with Dominic Rhymes, right? If you just throw it up there, he can just post up.
Daniels ain't big. You telling me Brandon Banks is the physical guy? Markeith Ambles?
Who's the big guy there then? Is it I thought Tavares Daniels was a little bigger.
I'll look up his height for you.
Anyway, I think it was Taylor or someone else, another analyst saying, my good friend Ann Bennett is on here from Facebook, my colleague and a great friend. Hi, Ann. How are you? This woman bought me a beer cozy from the Bomber store once to thank me, and I was like, I love this lady. I love it.
Get these little tidbits, little personal notes.
You know who else I love, Darrin? And I stole your mug, by the way. I don't care if it says Darrin. I kept your mug. I didn't even make overtures to have you get your mug.
Cold dead hands.
This is an absolute beauty from Sandy Thompson. She had her sister make it for Darrin and I. We both got one. I swear to God, if Darrin's name wasn't on it, I'd steal it. But he's gonna get it. Just beauty. Oh yeah, let's just call him McBeth. McBeth is a fascinating enigma, isn't he? He's led the league in passing 2 years in a row, but he is so inconsistent. He is so inconsistent. And he's a guy, I totally agree with you, Darrin. That's a great call. If he gets in a rhythm and he starts hitting on big throws, he could throw for 500 yards. I mean, he's never thrown for 500 yards, but he could, right? Like he's capable of that, but he's also capable of completely crapping the bed. Like if you will rewatch, like I rewatched the Toronto game from early in the season, he throws one, an out pattern to Brandon Banks, which Brandon Banks just dropped. They're not going to let you get away with it. He just dropped, right, Darrin? They called the same play and he threw it up again, and Winston Rose gets a pick 6, right? Like it's those decisions. He makes critical errors, and that's why the Argos lost the game. It wasn't just the Boris Beatty missing the single. It's the critical mental errors that MBT makes or McBeth makes that really costs the Argos. And here's the thing. Richie Hall is an absolute master. You look what he did with Nathan Rourke. I was listening to the post game and I was talking to you after. Think about how masterfully they contained Nathan Rourke. They dropped back a bunch of DBs. They didn't want him to get out of the pocket, so they sort of squeezed the pocket. There were hardly any sacks. There was a couple sacks, but really they contained him with 4. They dropped the guys into the pocket. He didn't have guys open. He couldn't run, so they knew they didn't have to spy on him and bring another DB. And for the first half of that game, Darren, if it was anyone other than Nathan Rourke with that pedigree and that history, they would have pulled his ass. He had 5 straight incompletions. So Richie Hall is going to have a good game plan for McBeth. But I like what Larry Ward was saying. He could be a slow starter like he was in Toronto when we played them earlier, but he can get going.
Well,
And he has a gun of an arm.
There's
They
two
keep a live
sides in
fire.
every game, right? The Toronto
Yeah.
Argonauts, with their veteran players like Andrew Harris, who knows how to win a win or go home game as well as anybody, and Ryan Dinwiddie and Markeith Ambles and
Enoch Mwamba
Jameer
has been
Daniel,
around, right?
a lot of these guys, like, they could easily craft a game plan that catches Winnipeg's defense off guard.
Sure.
It could definitely happen. If you're doubting McLeod Bethel-Thompson, I'm not saying you, Zach, but others out there, if you're doubting McLeod Bethel-Thompson, he was 65% on second down in the West Final. Or sorry, the East Final.
Wow, that's astonishing.
He was 67% on third down, going 2 of 3.
Wow.
He threw for 299 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and that left him with a quarterback efficiency rating of 131.6, which is nearly perfect.
Yeah.
He went 70%. He didn't have to do anything crazy. He really, really didn't. His longest pass of the day was 46 yards. He had 2 for 46 yards. He had one for 31, another for 30, another for 19. He didn't have to rely on 70-yard explosion plays. He took chunks when they were there. They didn't run the ball a ton, but they ran the ball enough.
Yeah.
I think in Andrew Harris's first game back, you say, okay, let's keep some training wheels on this. And I mean that obviously in a very positive way. Just take it easy. Don't go racing downhill yet. Well, it's Grey Cup week. Is this Andrew Harris's final game of his career? It could very well be. So you take everything off and you throw it at the fire and you see what works. And for Andrew Harris, he could easily go out there and play like he has never played in his entire life. He has never been a speed guy. He is a smack you in the mouth guy. And for someone who says it's personal, the day after winning the East Final, I would look out for him, AJ Ouellette, Declan Cross, Curly Gittins Jr., ran the ball a couple times in the East Final. They can do a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. Winnipeg's front, Big Hill, Jefferson, Jeffcoat, Thomas, Sales, Malik Clements, who is healthy and good to go. Judy Owen of the Canadian Press, hat tip to you, wrote a follow-up piece on him, and he is no worse for wear after that nasty blindside
blow. That was nasty by Suk Chung.
Was Suk Chung at the end of that West Final game. But those guys are going to have to be really, really sharp. They can't just go after MBT and try to get him off his game, because Toronto will throw some twists and turns and wrenches into the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defensive game plan. Don't think the Bombers defense is excellent and the Toronto Argonauts are okay and maybe Andrew Harris. No, there's a lot more to it. And I think if Toronto can solve Winnipeg's defense, we've got a football game on our hands, because if Toronto can score, then Winnipeg has got a serious fight on their hands.
Oh yeah, I could easily see it being a dogfight and coming down to the final minutes, Darren. I hope it doesn't. I hope someone I saw here said let's get out to a 24-0 boat race by the second quarter. That being said, and I'm kind of with Baby Yoda here, and this is just as a diehard fan. It's like I would hate to see, I want to see Andrew Harris go down in flames in this game. I'll be totally honest with you. I love what I have a Andrew Harris original artwork holding the Grey Cup, right? I love the guy. It's funny he says he has a chip on his shoulder and that, we just let him go. He played a good part in his release or not being re-signed here. And we don't have to get into that. but it wasn't all, the sob story. Oh, they moved on. That is far from the case. It's much more complicated than that. And he in some ways was the author of his own demise. I love the guy, and in 10 years, I won't care. Still be a hero of mine. But I want them to crush him. I want Adam Bighill to take him out of the game early. And I don't mean injure him and end his career. Just like take him out of the game. And I don't know which Andrew Harris we're going to see. He might have all the fire in the world, Darren, but I don't know how healthy he is. And you saw that last year. You saw that West Final where he absolutely crushed the Riders. He was the reason that we survived 6 turnovers. We still only beat them by 4. We should have just destroyed them. He put that team on his back. But that was the first time he was back after 10 weeks of missing? He wasn't 100% in the Grey Cup. I mean, he wasn't Hamilton's front was very good, but he wasn't getting very much. I wouldn't be surprised more of a decoy in this game. Like, I don't know what to expect, but I have to tell you, emotionally, I want them to crush him immediately. Like, put him down. Like, shut up. Shut him up.
No love lost, hey?
No love lost. They have the Brandon Banks curse. You get into their heads. You get ahead of them, ahead of the sticks. You get an early lead. This wasn't the first time there's been arguments on the sideline. The last time we played them, buddy, in Toronto, there was arguments on the sideline. Brandon Banks is an immature baby at times. And
why?
Because in a lot of games there, and when things don't go his way, or he wants a challenge, or there's a drop, or they don't throw to him again. You saw in the Toronto game, I believe it was they were on the goal line and they threw a inside slant to him, which wasn't very smart because he's so tiny. And Adam Bighill just absolutely obliterated him. Forced a fumble, and the Bombers, I believe it was, I don't know, it was Demario Houston or Nick Taylor took it back like 50 yards. And actually, McBeth actually made the tackle. he saved a touchdown. But every time, like, he could be easily triggered. You saw McBeth lose his mind in the East Final. I mean, I'm just saying, I would not be surprised for them to just, Mr. Caretaker Dad Pinball had to come down in that July game and sort of, put out the fires there. Honestly, he came down to the sideline. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's much more likely to happen on a Toronto sideline. I mean, don't forget the Bombers were down by 12 on the road. They were they were really road dogs of the Grey Cup last year, down by 12. That sideline was cool as a cucumber. But here's the thing, Dinwiddie, I mean, they've had our number. Someone referenced 2019, and I know I'm going on and on. I'll stop here in a second. 2019, we were up 20-0 on the road against that team, and they came back and beat us 28-27. 2021, the Toronto Argonauts were the only team that beat the Blue Bombers straight up with a starting lineup. And that was with Nick Arbuckle. They beat us 30-23, but the score was flattering. We had a garbage time TD. Darren, sometimes it's not your record or history or whatever. It's how talk about this. It's how certain teams match up. One team could be 9-9, one team could be 15-3, but just personnel scheme wise, it just, for whatever reason, it gives the Bombers fits. Whereas, juggernaut teams like the BC Lions and Calgary Stampeders and early on in the season, Saskatchewan, we were able to beat them. Right? It's complicated, as you've said. Football is 4D chess.
Hey, any given Sunday, and the 109th Grey Cup this Sunday in Regina is going to tell a tale that will be a heck of a story one way or the other. I want to get into the CFL All-Stars who were named yesterday. Now, these are the league all-stars, not the division all-stars and the bit of the snafu that happened a couple weeks ago. But Zach Collaros, Dalton Schoen, Patrick Neufeld, Stanley Bryant, and Dietrich Nichols, and Janarian Grant, all named league all-stars for the Blue Bombers. 8 Calgary Stampeders were named. That led the CFL, but obviously they're not up for the hardware everybody wants.
The most important
Grey Cup, of course. But
the rings, baby.
What is maybe I don't know, eye-opening or surprising a little bit to a lot of people in Bomber Nation is the omittance of Winnipeg's most outstanding defensive player, Willie Jefferson. Lorenzo Malden IV of the Ottawa Redblacks and Sean Lemon
Yeah.
of the Calgary Stampeders are the two defensive ends on the CFL All-Star team. It's always fascinating. During Grey Cup week, we will see the CFL PA All-Stars. Now, Michael Couture wasn't an All-Star last season. He was a CFL PA All-Star. That entire offensive line got it except for Couture, and then Couture grabbed the PA spot. But how do you feel about Willie Jefferson not being amongst the two best defensive ends in the league? Does it come down to numbers versus the eye test and seeing the impact he makes in games?
You know, Darren, I think it totally does. You look at Malden, he has a high double-digit sacks. I think it's like 17. And Lemon has 14, right? Willie Jefferson isn't, or Jeffcoat aren't even close to that.
No.
Lemon has a few forced fumbles. He's all over the stat sheet. I think it is. I think it's stats, buddy. It's always stats. It's interceptions, right? Like that. Those are the sexy stats, and I think it speaks to something that's actually quite problematic in the CFL, and actually, I find quite frustrating and embarrassing, is that the deeper stats like pressures aren't even kept. It
Not anymore.
takes guys like Derek Taylor to chart, or Marshall Ferguson, or guys like our buddy Nick Kowalski to chart every play, like guys on their own time who have the interest and are just like uber nerds and have an incredible work ethic and interest in this stuff.
Yeah,
Like it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't.
That's all fine. Okay, that's fine. You don't like the stats, that's fine. But the stats didn't select this team. Voting,
but I think people did because of the stats.
Members of the media did, the
Yeah.
fans did, and the head coaches have a vote. So yeah, I understand better numbers will equate to like better measurables will equate to maybe more educated decisions. But the reality is, Zach, I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about them. You know why? Because when I watch Willie Jefferson take a double team and then the tailback runs the other way and Jackson Jeffcoat or Casey Sales has that tackle, or Kyrie Wilson or Malik Clements steps into the gap that Willie essentially provides him to make the play. What stat is going to show that?
I think they can have stats on like you could chart it, and they should, like on what percentage of plays is Willie Jefferson. Sure, they can. What percentage of plays chart when Willie Jefferson is double teamed, and what is the result of the play? But DT does that stuff, Darren. They should do it.
No, you can't measure what's happening with 24 men on the field. I'm sorry.
I think you can.
2 minutes ago, you just said football is 4D chess, and now you're telling me that you can find a number out of the chaos going on at the line of scrimmage?
Totally. People do it. Those deeper stats, they can do it.
No.
They do it in hockey. They do it in baseball. It's analytics.
We're not talking about hockey or baseball.
Well, but there's sports where you can look at the deeper stats, like it's hard work, buddy, with 24. I'm not saying this is easy.
How do you compare someone like Willie Jefferson that drops back into coverage versus someone like Lorenzo Malden IV, who does not drop back into coverage?
Well,
how do you compare those two guys?
How do you compare them? Is you look at like you just said, buddy, you look at the bigger picture of the play. You don't just look and Chris Walby said this with you on the pregame, right? Like, what does 2 sacks matter? What are you doing every other play? And how are you affecting the game? And what are the larger stats? Like, what's the team defense stats? Like Lorenzo Malden, sure, you had 17 sacks. That's great. Look at the Winnipeg defense. It's near the top in every statistical category.
You know what they do in college football? They give an award to the best offensive line, like the group.
Right.
I like that.
I like it too.
Offensive line is a tough position for us in the media to analyze. Very difficult.
I just think like when you look at they should be measuring pressures. You look at pass knockdowns. You look at team defense, right? You saw this at the West Final.
Zach, you're not providing anything that we don't already do. All you've said is they don't track pressures anymore.
So maybe so then why wouldn't they pick a Willie Jefferson if it's clear as day to you when
Look.
you watch the games that he's a freaking game wrecker, even if he's not getting the stats. He might be even a game wrecker because he's not getting the stats, because he's allowing the other
Can I
guys,
show you
he's
something?
allowing the DBs to creep up, he's allowing Casey Sales,
Let
he's
me
allowing
show you
Alden
something
Darby
here.
and
I don't know if
Jackson
you can see
Jeffcoat
this.
to get the sacks.
You see this? See all those zeros?
Yeah.
You know whose stats those are?
Willie Jefferson?
No, there's one. No, all zeros.
Oh,
Got
all
some
zeros.
tackles. Okay, you got some tackles, handful of tackles throughout the season. You got an interception at some point there. There's an interception.
Folks, this is Regina screen sharing. This is what they do in Saskatchewan.
Right? That's Dietrich Nichols.
That's Dietrich Nichols. It's Dietrich Nichols Island. That's why I'm thrilled they picked him, Darrin.
Just give me a second. He finished with 46 defensive tackles and 1 pick. And why is he a league all-star?
Because nobody throws him the ball, and they should chart that too. No. How many times did Dietrich Nichols get thrown at?
Hang tight. I'm asking you on the same premise we were just talking about with the media and the coaches voting. Why is Dietrich Nichols an all-star on the league level?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's a conundrum. It's almost a contradiction, right? Because on the one hand, they're looking at...
Because it happens both ways. So you can't speak absolutely saying it doesn't work because you need numbers for the defensive ends. But then someone like Dietrich Nichols, where it clearly does work. You know why Dietrich Nichols was named a league all-star? Because us in Winnipeg started a conversation about how good he is. The newspaper guys wrote about him. The radio guys talked about him. The TV people talked about him and showed him. Here on YouTube.
Fair enough, Darrin, but there should be stats that easily show someone in Calgary what percentage of deep balls are thrown at Dietrich Nichols. I'm not saying it's everything.
It's never.
But I'm saying we shouldn't have to rely on the eye test all the time. So my question to you is, if they're using that criteria for Dietrich Nichols, right? If the fact that nobody even goes after him is why he's there as an all-star, which is legit. I love that he's there. And I think I give you a ton of credit for starting that conversation. He should maybe take you out for dinner.
Stop reading the live chat. Stop reading the live chat.
I'm not. I'm looking at myself, actually. I like my beard tonight. I'm looking at you and I'm saying, if that's the criteria whereby they picked Dietrich Nichols, why isn't that the criteria they used for Willie Jefferson or Adam Bighill? This team allowed by far the fewest rushing touchdowns.
I'm just saying you can't blanket it and say we need more numbers and then we'll vote better. This is the reality.
I think we would.
This is the reality.
I'm not saying it's everything.
This is the reality, Zach.
You're telling me it's 3. You're mansplaining to me, but I'm another man, so.
This is the reality, Zach. Okay? Members of the media have a job to do. So when they watch a football game, they're writing a story. So they watch the best they can.
Yeah.
Many people in the media watch the game a second time, watch the other games, like say BC's playing Calgary or Toronto is playing Montreal, or if Hamilton is playing Saskatchewan. You watch those games. I do the best I can to watch every single CFL game. I am never going to throw my Football Reporters of Canada brothers and sisters under the bus, but I know how difficult it is to watch every game in the league. It's hard. So what do? You
talk to the expert. You talk to each other, right?
You have to have conversations with media in other markets, with coaches in other markets, with players in other markets, players in your own market. You know, back in the days where the locker room was open, the locker rooms were open and we can kind of like mill about the players, you know, in their locker room and kind of like, oh, hey, you got a second? Can I talk to you? I would often go say, hey, Jake Thomas, like, who's the best O-lineman in the league?
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
Like, who's the best interior O-lineman in the league? And
love that.
You know what? I really like this guy in Calgary, or, you know, this guy in Hamilton. Those things happen, and then you have conversations about it. The reality is, when you have a voting system, you're going to have very educated people, you're going to have opinionated people, you're going to have people that feel differently about the value of certain stats or the value of impact in games. If Willie Jefferson had 3 interceptions this year and Sean Lemon had 17 sacks, but Willie Jefferson's 3 interceptions all went back for touchdowns,
Yeah.
do you weigh more to that? You can't just say I need more numbers and it tells the story.
I'm not saying that's
You
just.
have to,
I'm not saying
you
you
have to bring
just
it
need
all
that.
together
I'm saying it would color in the lines a little bit. I
a
would
little bit.
I think it would
I'll
help.
give you that.
But I would hope that people, that they do like you do, talk to each other and say, and they talk to the players, right? Because that's really good qualitative data right there. Like,
Yep.
you ask a guy who's in the trenches, who's played every team a couple of times, some more than 2, who's
Well,
the
hey,
best, right?
Speaking of Dietrich Nichols, at the Grey Cup last year, when Nick Kowalski of the BC Lions, prior
Yeah,
to him getting a job there, was working with Bonfire Sports, we were talking to Dietrich Nichols like during
yeah,
media day,
yeah.
and he'd be like, "Hey, what do you think of this guy? What do you think?" Like, Nick's a big football guy, right? And he'll be like, "So
Oh
what do you
yeah,
think of this
huge.
receiver?" And he'd be like, "Oh, 86? Yeah. Oh yeah, I like him." And be like, "Oh, what do you think of this guy? Oh, 80, 82? Yeah, no, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. He had that, he's got a big game." And then you'd be like, "Well, how about 17 on this team?" You'd be like, "Oh yeah, he's nice. 17, that's the guy. He's really good. He's hard to like." That's the type of recall these players have. It's the number and the team. They know 17 in double blue. They know 82 in red and white, like whatever. Obviously, just examples, random examples. But to talk to players about that, and like, look, you can't just talk to one player and be like, "Well, they think he's good. Everybody must think he's good."
Right.
Sometimes players get beat really bad by a dude. Remember when McDaniels would always beat Mo Leggett? Remember
I've
that?
scrubbed that from my mind,
Like,
buddy.
he would have 140 yards on 9 catches, like, every single time Calgary would play
Yeah.
Winnipeg. Mo Leggett at the dime would have just an absolute headache of a game, guarding McDaniels. And the first name's escaping me. I can't believe that. Forgive me. But,
Starts with an M. McDaniels.
yeah, well, forgive
Frick.
me, Mr. McDaniels. Like,
Mister, it's a
heck of a player, great career in the CFL. But either way, I know the
Markway.
Firestarter.
Markway.
Markway, yes, thank
I
you.
got it before you, waiters. I got it before you, waiters.
But that's the thing is you're never going to get a fully balanced
But that's what we love about
look.
football, right, Darrin? Like, we could
Yeah.
have these conversations, and people, we're fine. Darrin and I are fine. We'll clink some beers after this. It's more fun, like, when you just let it all hang loose, right? Uh, and we're not doing this for entertainment. Like, we're just Townsend quantitative stats with the sexy ones. Hey, buddy from Singapore and Mr. Audette from the island. Just love all the people joining in, Darrin. Hey, can I so let me ask you this then. How
Yeah.
did you feel about Willie Jefferson not being there?
It's tough. Like, Lorenzo Malden IV had an outstanding season. I'm always weary. Pardon me. I'm always wary. I'm
And
always
sometimes
aware
you're weary.
of the fact that defensive players on teams that don't play very good football. Ottawa was one of the worst teams in the league this year, arguably the worst. They're on the field a lot. So those
It's a good
numbers
point,
can get
actually.
inflated,
Yeah.
right? Sack numbers, I mean, the team's got to be passing in order for you to get a sack. So all that said, he had an outstanding season. He is very well deserved. Sean Lemon, same situation. Outstanding season and well deserved. Willie Jefferson has brought home a ton of hardware.
Yeah.
He will trade all of those for another ring,
Well,
and
and that's
he'll have an opportunity to go out there and do it on Sunday.
and
So
at
I
the
don't have a
yeah.
sorry, Zach. I don't have a
I
huge
Don't be
problem
sorry.
with it.
I'm interrupting you. I should be sorry.
Well, that's okay.
It's
I don't have a
okay.
huge problem with any of the picks. I'm really glad to see Tim White
Yeah.
and Keely Gittins amongst the
Yep.
receivers. Pat Neufeld, as I mentioned, at guard. Good to see him there. Derek Dennis, season was cut short, but he was outstanding at tackle on the best offensive line in the CFL with Calgary this season. Mike Rose and Jake Serezna of Calgary and Edmonton, respectively, at defensive tackle. Awesome. Cameron Kelly, I mentioned him a little bit earlier. Jamal Peters of Toronto, Gary Peters of BC, Marcus Sales was a nice pick. Dietrich Nichols, of course, with Winnipeg. Lucius Purifoy is one of the most special and gifted
Yeah,
athletes
you've talked about him a
in the
lot.
CFL. Great to see him there. Rene Paredes, can't really go wrong naming him the CFL All-Star kicker. Cody Grace was the best punter in the CFL this year, hands down.
Oh, he
Janarian
skied
Grant
balls
gets,
like crazy.
yeah, Janarian Grant gets the special teams player. Sometimes that goes to a cover guy like a Mike Miller in years past. A returner gets it. It's not Mario Alford.
Yeah.
It is Janarian Grant. So, congratulations to all those guys. I had no issues with any of the picks this year. But of course, when you're in Winnipeg, you got to talk about someone like Willie Jefferson being left off the list.
You do, and you know what? At the end of the day, Darren, I mean, you're right. There's so many factors, and I like what James Kudlovich just cut us to the quick. Yeah, you're both right. Let's talk about the Bombers, and I'm getting there too. Listen, I don't care if Willie Jefferson gets an award or he gets a lump of coal. All I care about is the Grey Cup at this point. Although I will say, Janarian Grant being on there instead of Mario Alford was interesting because Alford actually had 4 kick return touchdowns. Well, 2 kick return, 1 punt, and a missed field goal return touchdown. He had 4. So interesting, right? Including one in the Banjo Bowl when the Riders almost
What
got
would you
back
do
in
the
that
rest of
game.
the time? That's why.
Well, there you go. The average. You got to look at the average, the eye test, blah, blah, blah. Okay, dude, I got to ask, what else did you see at practice today? Or were you just taking selfies with Hamilton?
Yeah, I was pretty much just
That was a nice picture on Twitter, though. You both look good, despite the drive and the early morning.
Well, yeah, no, I took a picture with Jeff just because he had the news of the day. Everyone was
Yeah.
reporting that Zach Collaros wasn't on the field.
Right.
Jeff reported that he would not be coming out.
Oh, is that right?
That's the specific news. So kudos to Jeff. He's obviously done outstanding work really for years now on the CFL beat and well beyond like the work that he does in abuse and sports. And then obviously the real human stuff, outstanding. And I'm proud to call him a good old friend. But for the Blue Bombers, Keon Adams, their defensive end, did not practice today. The rest, no real surprises. I think it was good to see Malik Clements out there. No issue after taking that pretty nasty hit from Suk Chung. I did not get to Mosaic this morning. Like, look, I left Winnipeg at like 7 a.m., so I missed Argos practice.
Give you a pass.
But Winton McManus really standing out as the one player. He's got a bicep injury, so he did not practice today. I'm just going to make sure.
That's a big loss.
Well, let's call it a loss when he doesn't play on Sunday.
Yeah. But even then, he's not going to be 100%, right?
Nobody ever is.
No, but I'm talking about like sub 60.
Well, you don't know that.
I don't know. I'm just saying if he was out of the game in the East Final, right?
Okay.
Anyway,
could be like
I'm just hoping he's not playing. I would love to see him not in there.
You just rest. And like, here's the thing. If guys are in the injury report, you don't know if they're like near death. I'm being hyperbolic, of course. You don't know if they're like absolutely incapable of physical rigors of football, or if they're just taking it easy to ensure that maintenance is there to be as good to go as possible on Sunday. In pro football, like pretty much all of pro sports, team and individual, nobody is ever 100%. And especially in football, guys are always dealing with something.
You have a sinus thing. I got a knee issue. What about Demario Houston? So he was a full participant last week. Maybe some people were surprised he wasn't a starter. They had Jamal Parker and Desmond Lawrence out there on the field side.
Right.
What are your thoughts on Houston? Like, I'm putting you on the spot here, I know, but and you could say I don't know yet. But
like, here, I read Brady Oliveira's "In My Own Words" on BlueBombers.com. Excuse me as I choke on my own words. read that great piece on bluebombers.com. And in that, he talked about coming back from injury in 2021,
Right.
right? And, just getting there and being healthy enough he felt to play. But in his words, in his own words, bluebombers.com, in his own words, he said that, you know, forgive me, Zach, the sinus is getting to me.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
clouding.
yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. Brady Oliveira said, you don't mess with a winning lineup. And that's why
Yeah,
he did not play in that game. So, like, look,
yeah.
Demario Houston hasn't just missed a couple weeks. He
He's
has
missed a
missed
lot
a lot of football
since
this
that Calgary game, right?
right?
He came up lame, and Malik Henry took it in. Yeah, for the house. Yep, to the house. Yep,
Right. Yeah. And that was a long time ago because I remember
long time.
Demario Houston hanging out in like shorts, and I was hanging out in shorts and t-shirt.
Yeah, that was after. That was what?
It was
That was
summer.
after the bye week after we lost to Montreal. That was
Yeah, it,
week
it was a
12,
long time ago.
long
So if
time
he's
ago.
healthy
Yeah,
enough to play, that's great. Maybe he dresses on Sunday, but
yeah.
they have Desmond Lawrence, who has been excellent. Jamal Parker has been excellent. You don't mix and mess with Winston Rose and Dietrich Nichols and Brandon Alexander, and of course Alden Darby at the dime. He is a Grey Cup champion at that
Huge.
before, so there's no reason for Winnipeg to mess with their lineup at all. Plain and simple, like we're still days and days away. We will
Yeah.
get a depth chart on Saturday morning ahead of Sunday's Grey Cup. I expect 0 changes, at least to the principal individuals
Hmm.
on Winnipeg's roster. Toronto, we'll have to see how the rest of the week goes. I'll try to get some closer eyes on that. But yeah, I mean, Wynton McManus, I think it's just, maybe not a loss, but you say, hey, let's keep an eye on that, because that is a huge piece of their
He's
defense, and
he's the middle linebacker, right?
he's going to be tip of the sword, tip of the spear in trying to stop Brady Oliveira. Tell me about Brady. What are you seeing from him? Like, just, you could honestly say his best performance of the
Yeah.
season came when it mattered most. 167 combined yards, 130 on the ground, 6.5 yards per carry in the West Final win. It was
Yeah.
masterful.
It honestly, Darren, it made me so happy, and it made me even more proud because of how the season started for Brady.
Yeah.
Like people were wanting his head. People wanted to replace him with Johnny Augustine. That's a long time ago now. Like, it's hard to even remember that we were talking about Johnny Augustine needs to come in. Give Johnny a chance. Like, Brady against Toronto, like I said, ran for 28 yards. There was virtually no run game. He was hesitating. He wasn't hitting the holes. And it wasn't until he had sort of an about face, and he talked to Kevin Burgoyne, and he talked to the offensive coaches, and they said, Brady, do your thing. And he just didn't have the confidence yet. And the experience, and God, the pressure you'd feel of trying to fill Andrew Harris's shoes, right? And he has been an absolute stud. I mean, of course, and we talked about this last time. It's the whole offensive scheme. It's all the offensive players that play a role in that. But he's hitting the holes. It's the same offensive line Harris had, and Brady was struggling. He's developed a chemistry with the offensive line, and he's hitting the holes, and he's hitting them hard. Low pad level, hard to take down, able to juke guys. It's an absolute game changer, man. And I couldn't be more proud of a hometown boy, and such a good guy, right? Like, look at what he does with dog rescue, and my mother-in-law has a crush on him. Oh, he's so cute, and he rescues dogs. Now he can write. He could write, an op-ed piece about his season, right? Like, just incredible. It's just an absolute game changer for the Grey Cup to have a guy playing at that level, I think. And if Wynton McManus isn't 100%, who I believe is their middle linebacker, also on this
Weak
All-Star
side,
list,
yeah.
Darren,
Weak side.
he absolute stud.
No,
Watch out.
League
Watch
All-Star.
out. That's like, can you imagine losing Adam Bighill? How much scarier, Ouellette would look, and Andrew Harris. That's what you're talking about here. Now, I don't know that
Let's not get
Wynton
ahead of
McManus.
ourselves. It's one day.
I know. I'm not
Yeah.
comparing the
We're
two. I
talking
don't
about
think
Brady.
talking about Brady. I'm going on a tangent. Yeah, incredible story, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I loved how Nick Dembski put it after the game. And he simply said, Brady Oliveira was built for games like this. He
Yeah.
was built for these tough, just whatever adjective you want to use, like just absolute hard-nosed, cold weather, uber nasty and physical battles in the trenches that, he was built for games like that. And it really reminds you of the one in which he is the protege.
Yep.
It reminds you of 33, Andrew Harris,
Totally.
and how when it got nasty out or the stakes were big or you knew the Blue Bombers or the BC Lions, whichever team he was a member of, you knew the ball was going to 33 and you still couldn't stop him. One player will not take that runner down. And the way Brady Oliveira is playing, like they don't want to draw the comparisons. It started all the way back in training camp, right? This is life after Andrew Harris. What are they going to get? Is it a two-headed monster? Is it all Brady? Are they going to go to this Greg McCrae guy? Or we didn't know,
Yeah.
right? John Santiago was here. Like
Yeah.
there was a lot of possibilities. Brady is not Andrew Harris, but boy, does he have a lot of those same very attractive qualities that have made Andrew Harris and make Brady Oliveira very dangerous football players. And I don't mean to speak in past tense of
No.
Andrew Harris. He's going to go
No.
out there on Sunday and show that he clearly
Sure.
still has a lot of gas in the tank. But seeing 33 face 20, the master, the protege, the teacher, and the pupil will be fascinating.
Oh,
And then, throw in Nick Dembski there as well, who admitted today he wants to be a running back. He was a running back
is
in
that
high
right?
school and at the University of Manitoba. He's like, hey, if you're running back, you get the ball more. I just want the ball. Put the ball in my hands. That's what I want. So he doesn't care whatever position you call it. You could call it tight end. You could call it, halfback, whatever, defensive halfback. It doesn't matter. He wants the ball in his hands. We haven't talked much about Nick Dembski or Greg Ellingson or Dalton Schoen. Those three, even with maybe nicked up Zach Collaros,
Yeah.
like, when's the last time Winnipeg had a seasoned veteran, one seasoned veteran, Dalton Schoen, with Greg Ellingson and and Rashid Bailey, and all of those guys clicking at their best. Nick Dembski, of course, like that is a real mix. I think Winnipeg has going for them. Ellingson didn't have a lot, 2 targets, no catches in the West Final.
Did that concern you, Darren?
No.
So I think some fans were like, "Is the chemistry off? Is he 100%?" He almost had a pick six by TJ Lee when he threw
Let
it
me
to
ask you this.
Ellingson.
If Mark Scheifele goes 3 games without scoring a goal, are you worried?
I guess if he has been in the lineup for a while, maybe.
Come on.
I was a little bit worried about Greg Ellingson. He looked good against
Football,
BC
you said it
previously.
earlier, Zach. I'm going to take your own words.
Oh yeah,
Football
that's your MO, buddy. It's gold. It's
football
a
is a
good one.
game of matchups. Sometimes it's just not the direction the other team is making you go. Sunday could be very different, could be the same thing, but having Greg Ellingson in your lineup makes the Blue Bombers a better team. Having Nick
Absolutely.
Dembski, like, I don't know if you can eliminate a Nick Dembski
You can't.
from a
That's the
game plan.
beauty of Nick
He does so
Dembski.
much. He does
He's
so
like the Army knife, right? You call him the Canadian Army knife. Maybe you eliminate that big knife, but then that little cuticle scraper comes out. Maybe the toothpick comes out. Maybe
aisle.
the scissors come out. Maybe I don't. What else is on there?
The
On
saw.
the saw. My dad had one that had like pliers and a wine opener, like
Screwdriver. Oh yeah, you got the
screwdriver.
wine. Yep.
Some folks have them on
Corkscrew.
their belts or in their fanny pack, right? Like you never know when you're going to need one. And I'm just reminding myself, looking at the stats here, Darren. Sorry, I believe, and I had that right. So Dembski didn't play when we played against Toronto last time, and when the run game wasn't going. And by the way, sayonara, Corey May. Sorry, your battery run out. We'll catch you on the.
That's the beauty of Bonfire
Yeah,
Sports. Hit
he's
us
gonna
up
listen.
on your podcast app. You'll have it up just a couple minutes after the
That's
show's
right,
over.
baby. Darren, I don't know how you get it out so fast.
Oh man, I
It's
go into
crazy.
hyperdrive.
Yeah, but yeah, like Dembski is an absolute game changer. He didn't play against Toronto that game. Yeah, you remember the Grey Cup, right? Like he got that last year. He got that. He got us back in the game with that big touchdown where he basically juked those guys, the two DBs from Hamilton out of their socks. ADHD. Hey, I have ADHD, so yes, it's always there.
It ain't go there.
It's a blessing and a curse, folks. Mostly a blessing, though, in live entertainment.
I love this. Moon Vision Inc. watching live on YouTube. What's going on, Moon Vision? Welcome inside Bonfire
Yeah.
Sports. Thanks for joining us around
Yes.
the fire. And all are welcome. He says, well, I presume it's a he because they say, bro, you Winnipeg fans will be so hurt and shocked this Sunday. I noticed a couple other comments Moon Vision put in the chat earlier today. They're pulling for the double blue, not the blue and gold. So it's great. This is what Grey Cup's all about, man.
Dude, if the Argos beat us, I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not turning on the TV at 5:00 on Sunday and expecting us to blow them out. And I'm really not. Like I am nervous as heck for this game. And
Why?
I know you this
Why
doesn't bother you.
Are you nervous like natural nerves? Like, you'd be
No, I'm even more
no matter what?
nervous. If we were playing Montreal or Hamilton, the thing is with the Argos, they've played us tough. Yes, Hamilton. They have played us tough the last few years.
They always play tight games.
They always play tight games. They've come back and beat us when we were well ahead a couple of times.
Beat Winnipeg last year.
Like I said, they were the only team to beat us straight up, and they still have the same coaches.
Yeah.
So I'm very nervous. I'm very and historically, and I know sometimes these things don't matter. We've never beaten the Argos in the Grey Cup. You have Andrew Harris with that chip on his shoulders. That's an X factor. Let's talk X factors. That's an X factor.
Here's one. X factor.
Right.
Donnie Boy's question, which bomber will get Canadian MOP on Sunday, Brady or Dembski? Or maybe it won't be a bomber at all. Maybe it'll be Curly Gittins Jr. or Andrew Harris.
Don't sleep on Curly Gittins. I mean, that guy's been an absolute all-star.
League all-star. Yeah.
So the game makes me nervous. Mark Leggio's struggles at the biggest stage last week didn't help. Although if you look at the stats, we actually are better than the Argos in terms of not only field goal percentage, but 1 point conversion conversion percent. So Boris Beatty, you'll remember, missed that point after at the end of the game, which would have sent it to overtime, and they had all the momentum. Yeah. The Argos seem to win Grey Cups. I'm seeing what Lynn Reimer says, right? They do. I mean, you look at 2017 against Calgary. They had no business winning that game. They were 9-9. Calgary was at the height of Bo Levi's powers.
I think they were 7-0, or I got to check.
6-0, I think. Lynn
7-0 in their last 7 Grey Cups.
Yeah, like it's crazy. They had 2 100-yard touchdowns, one on offense. Remember that? What's his name? He's now, I don't even think he's playing in the league, that receiver. Had one over Tommy Campbell for 100 yards. And then who was it?
What happened? What happened?
What happened? I don't know what happened.
Oh, no.
And then they had that 100 yards. Yeah, I know. You're looking at Moon Vision. And you had that 100-yard when, what's his name? Receiver for Calgary. He was trying to get extra yards. And they punched the bomber. The Argos punched it out and took it back 100 yards for the Grey Cup win. They had 2 100-yard touchdowns.
Yeah, and I remember Andrew Buckley, who had 9 touchdowns and led the CFL in rushing touchdowns that year.
Gets stuffed.
Yeah, he had 9 rushing touchdowns that year, and he just couldn't gain the edge like he did so many times. Throughout the season. Antiques, what is it? Antique Slivers Dusty.
Yeah.
What a handle that is. Antique Slivers Dusty. Late to the show. Is Zach Collaros and his foot all good? It's a suspected ankle, leg, ankle, foot, whatever you want to call it. Did not practice today. Today's day 1. Tomorrow being Thursday, closed practice. Friday afternoon. Keep it locked to my Twitter. You'll find a link to my Twitter. Well, look, go to twitter.com/Darrin Bauming or Just Google it. You'll find it. I'll have the latest as it happens from Blue Bombers practice on Friday. But Zach, I mean, that leads the Grey Cup storylines. I quickly want to get your thoughts on Nathan Rourke and his opportunities in the NFL, and Levi Mitchell, who was traded by Calgary to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Lots of speculation, some reporting from sources saying that Levi Mitchell will forego being with the Hamilton Tiger Cats for the next 3 months and go to free agency in mid-February. How do you see this shaking out? It's fascinating.
Well, I was, and sorry to flip it back on you, but I was curious, Darrin. Like when I think about the Levi Mitchell, and someone referenced his interview today. I didn't hear it. Did something significant happen in his interview? I don't know. But and I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just throwing this out to the fire starters. But
I thought I saw something on social media that
okay,
he said something on Calgary radio, but I mean, like, you don't know. The Stampede, or like the Hamilton Tiger Cats, like for the Stamps, it's a no-brainer, right? They're not re-signing Bo Levi.
yeah.
So try to get something for him. Well, the Hamilton Tiger Cats are hosting the Grey Cup in 2023. So 12 months from now, Hamilton will be hosting the Grey Cup again. And for those wondering why twice in 3 years, well, it's because they had to do it in a pandemic year and probably didn't get their full bang for their economic buck. Regardless, they are swinging hard as teams do and should do when they host a Grey Cup, so you can win it on home soil. And Ticats weren't able to do it in 2021. They're going to try to do it again in 2023 with Levi Mitchell as their quarterback. Should Bo go to free agency? Will he go to free agency? We'll have to wait and see. But the Ticats management is probably not going to just hand over assets for something that they don't feel that they can get done. Now, it was a third and a fifth, and I understand that there's some conditions in there, right? So, like, it's not for sure. And in the CFL, famous for conditional picks or conditions of trades that, you're like, what? That's okay. Oh, yeah. 2 years later, you find out, oh, right, that was the condition. Okay. It ends up being a second rounder and whatever. It famous for it is the CFL. But Hamilton has 3 months of exclusive negotiating with Levi Mitchell.
So that was my curiosity there, Darrin, was, and maybe I'm missing something. I haven't heard that very often in the CFL where you trade for the right to negotiate with someone.
It happens.
I can't remember the last time I heard it. And I guess, like, what does that really mean? So they have exclusive right to try and get a contract with him done in the next 3 months? That's basically all it means? Like, no one else can throw offers?
It does happen. It happened with a marquee name this past offseason.
Okay.
Either way, it's going to be up to Levi Mitchell. Like, he needs the right fit. He wants to win. He wants an offense that is going to maximize his skill set. And he wants, my understanding, I've been told, that he wants to play somewhere that still allows him to be close enough to home. So there's a lot of teams this offseason that could be looking for a quarterback. BC, we'll get to Nathan Rourke in a second, right? Edmonton, possibly. I understand they gave guaranteed money to Taylor Cornelius, but if Bo wanted to sign there and the price was right, I wouldn't count it out. I don't think it's likely at all.
Yeah.
But it's possible. He's obviously not going to Calgary or Winnipeg. Saskatchewan leads the list, no doubt. Hamilton is obviously interested. Toronto may even be interested, especially if McLeod Bethel-Thompson goes out there on Sunday and doesn't look anywhere near somebody capable of winning a championship.
Sure.
Because
Yep,
Toronto
good
has
point.
a lot of pieces in place, right?
Yeah.
It could very well be Montreal. It could even be Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
Because with a new coach, they might say Masoli's not our guy. So there could be a lot of moving pieces this winter in just the quarterbacking in the CFL alone. It's going to be fascinating. What I call Bo Levi Mitchell the first domino to fall? Maybe. He may be.
Yeah.
The Ticats have made him that, at least, because they're either going to sign him in the next couple months, or it's going to be February 1st, and be like, okay, well, if you haven't signed anything by February 1st and free agency opens in 2 weeks, maybe you're hitting the market.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me. I'm not surprised Hamilton did it. Saskatchewan's the most obvious one because obviously Fajardo's on his way out. But yeah, I mean, I could see him fitting in Hamilton for sure. I think it's a well coached team. They have a ton of talent. Um, Evan's inconsistency really did them in, but yeah, I don't know what to make of it because it just means they have 3 months of negotiating with him, right? Is that right? Yeah,
Yep.
okay. So I don't know what that means, and I don't know how often that translates to an actual signing. So I mean, it
He
doesn't
can't
it,
sign with anybody except Hamilton for the next 3 months.
right? But that wasn't his choice. That was Calgary's choice.
And
So
Hamilton, yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if it means anything,
You
to be
could
honest.
look, if you're in the twilight back nine, whatever you want to call it, of your career as a CFL quarterback, and you want to win, there could be a lot worse places than Hamilton.
Well, you talked about Tim White, right? There's a guy
Yeah.
who could he's very easy to throw
You
to.
remember Wes Hills?
Yeah, West Downhills
That's right.
as
Yep. And they got some good offensive linemen. They've got great players on defense. And you also have to know they're going to load up. It's not just, okay, we'll sign our quarterback and we're
yeah,
good.
for
They're
sure.
going to ensure their roster is tip top for for a Grey Cup
Maybe
host.
they go after a Kenny Lawler, right? Like
Yeah.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
no,
some intriguers out
it
there.
is interesting. And when you talk about Nathan Rourke, I mean, it sounds like he's got a bunch of NFL workouts planned. I think that's great. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if
Over
he,
2 dozen, according to
yeah.
Farhan Lalji.
So how is that indicative of the likelihood of him getting
Yes.
signed? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And he's gonna wait, like, he wants the right opportunity, right? So, like, yeah, Bo wants the right opportunity in the right place, the right mix. Nathan Rourke wants the right opportunity. He, according to the great reporting that Farhan has done on this really throughout, from his spot in Vancouver there, is that, like, Rourke is 25,
Yeah.
and the numbers he put up in the first half of the season, combined with his age, second year pro, first year starter, is impressive. And that catches the attention of of NFL talent evaluators.
Yeah.
But Zach, to me, one of I think the asset Nathan Rourke brings that puts him over the top compared to somebody of similar talent is the way he busted his tail to get back and play well,
Mm-hmm.
won a playoff game.
Yep.
And they wouldn't have won that playoff game if it wasn't for Nathan Rourke's arm. And, like, look, he lost a game in Winnipeg. We talked about this on the postgame show. He lost a game in Winnipeg to a very, very good, the best team in the league right now in the Blue Bombers. So I think they look at that mental toughness, that fortitude
Mm-hmm.
between the
Sure. That's
ears
gotta count.
as something. It's like, you know what? There's a lot of good athletes out there, a lot of smart quarterbacks that think the game and make decisions quickly and have a great arm and they're mobile and the rest. Rourke brings all of that physicality. But I think GMs and talent evaluators across the globe know that if you have that little something extra that Nathan Rourke clearly has, that it's almost a can't miss situation. So when he has over 2 dozen workouts and he wants a number 2 job, there's a lot of teams in the NFL that
Mm-hmm.
are just barren wastelands of quarterback talent. So
And yeah. Sorry, Darren. And from what I've heard, he grinds, right? Like he grinds in the film
exactly.
room,
Yeah.
like any marquee quarterback would. And contrary to what Freezer's saying, he actually does have a quick release. That's one of the hallmarks.
Super quick.
Super quick and super quick to just bomb it down the field, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's an incredible talent, Darren, and I would love to see him just tear it up in the NFL. I mean,
Yeah.
the pace he was setting Like, and
Look,
even in a game where he wasn't 100% against the best team in the league on the road with those fans, he was within one score. Now, that wasn't just him. That was some mistakes on our part, but he was in with one score, and he had a horrible first half. He ended up with 300 yards, a touchdown, right? Like, I was impressed with what he showed on Sunday, to be honest. And
yeah,
he cares, right? He for a guy that has NFL aspirations, that game meant everything to him. And
no doubt.
you could argue that maybe he even put his health on the line by coming back as soon as he did. I'm not too
Yeah.
sure, but
Well, and these workouts, he's going to begin next week. Like as soon as the Grey Cup is over, the window for NFL workouts of CFL players under contract opens.
yeah,
So he's got to space them out, and he is going to take them nice and slowly. Big hat tip to Farhan Lalji, who had lots of details on all of that earlier this week. But yeah, space it out. They're not going to ask him to run the cone drill or the
no,
40 or anything like that. He's just going to sit back there and he's going to throw, and he's going to talk. He's going to go into a meeting room. They might
yeah,
ask him to drop some things on the whiteboard, that sort of thing, or they'll show him a defense. Okay, give us your progression. What are you seeing? What are they showing? Excuse me. It helps a lot that a Canadian kid like Nathan Rourke played in the NCAA in a like legit program at Ohio University playing for the Bobcats, because NFL talent evaluators know that he is used to 11 on 11 football with just like the free safety, and a nickel might come in as an extra DB. But like either way, I
yeah,
think for Nathan Rourke, the mind, the body, and then just that will that he has to be the best that he can be all the time. It's a reason why he was so good in his short time here in the NFL. Like I'm with you. I want to see him tear it up in the NFL. I'm also just a fan of the game, and not a fan
sure,
of any team in particular. I would love to see him come back to the CFL and
absolutely.
absolutely tear it up and lead the BC Lions or whichever team to a three-peat. I think that would be fantastic.
Awesome. And as long as we get our three-peat, I'm willing to share the Grey Cup. I just want the three-peat, buddy. Yeah, no, and Rourke is good for BC, which is a really important market, and Amar Doman has done great things.
Yeah.
I think we're getting to the sunset here, Darrin, of this show, and you have so much more coming up, buddy, on Bonfire. So before we sort of, maybe, dare I say, make our picks, I will make my pick. You might be too soon for you.
Give it.
But before we do that, what have you got coming up this week? Because I know the big guy, the legend, is on tap. You've probably got some other spots.
Yeah, we got a lot, obviously. Chris Walby will join me for Game Day Winnipeg, as he always does the day before the game. We're aiming for Saturday afternoon, but lots
Nice.
happening, obviously, in the Grey Cup City. So just keep it locked to bonfiresports.ca and our YouTube page and our podcast pages. Sub up, like, subscribe, do all those good things. Hit the comments. We appreciate all that so much. I read them all. I respond to the questions and everything you guys have. Hit the hotline. People have been texting me already during the show. 816 tips 204 816 8477. Hit it up and let's chat. We'll talk about it. But post game is going to be interesting, Zach, because I'm going to be on the field. I'm going to be in the locker room, win or lose, happy or sad, whatever it is, tears of joy or tears of despair. So we'll see how post game shakes out. We might have to do it on Monday.
That's okay. I could do Monday. I'll move things around for you, Darrin. I got to give a shout out to a guy I haven't seen here before, James Kudlovich. He's just throwing down some great stats here. Welcome to the show, buddy. If I've missed you before, I apologize, but really enjoying your stuff here on the fireside, keeping us entertained, my friend, and informed. So, I mean, and this goes perfectly into my pick. I think if I were to pick this game and try and be as objective as possible, it's hard for me to do that. I'm a worried fan. I'm someone who's seen 2007 and 2001, dare I say it. I know people around the fireside feels like I've poured gasoline on the fire. They're like, whoa, 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 don't talk about that. But listen, these things happen. Now, do I think it's less likely to happen to this team? Yeah. I would pick the Bombers. I'm still nervous as heck. But in almost every conceivable statistical category, Darrin, that is measured, the Bombers are a better team.
Mhm.
often by quite a bit.
Yeah.
I look at things like penalties, much more discipline, and those things can come back to bite you in the Grey Cup, right? You look at TDs allowed, you look at it, just overall defense and offense, possession. Uh, the only place where I see Toronto as having an advantage, really, unless Zach Collaros is significantly injured, is they get a lot of interceptions. But they played a lot of their games against the East Division. And if you get that many interceptions against Calgary, Saskatchewan, BC, okay, that's one thing. But if it's against when you played Ottawa 3 times,
Well, have you done those numbers?
I haven't done those numbers.
You
I
brought it up.
haven't done those
You
numbers.
brought it up.
No, I know. I'm just saying a lot of those games it would be interesting to run them, right? But a lot of those games have been against East Division.
Well,
So
and like that commenter was mentioning that,
yeah,
they have a low yards per carry average and low pass
first
completion
down. Yeah,
percentage. That's based on the entire year. When they
yeah,
got a run game going,
yeah.
when AJ Ouellette began to emerge, and now you add Andrew Harris in the playoffs, McLeod Bethel-Thompson's numbers are better. And just imagine you have a balanced offense, things both work.
Yeah.
Because if you have pass, the run opens. You have the run, the pass opens. So don't just look at the year-long numbers on the Argos and say, "Well, okay, they're not very good
That's a
at
fair
A or
point.
B or C." Yeah,
Yeah, no, you look at sort of the trends as the season went on absolutely for sure. Even then though, just the culture of the Bombers, the discipline, the experience. They've been there again and again, and now it's their third time. And I think it almost gives you an unfair advantage because the more experience you get in big games, if things turn sideways on the Bombers, Janarian drops a punt or Zach throws a pick six or there's a bizarre penalty like we had, it's a legit penalty, but that bizarre one you almost never see against the plant leg of the punter, right? That absolutely turned
yep,
that game around. Um, that the Bombers are going to be resilient and they're not going to crumble. And I would pick the Bombers. I don't know if I'd take the 6. I don't. I might give Toronto. I don't think I'd pick them. I think I'd pick Toronto against the spread, but I do think the Bombers should win the game. Even when you talk about and tell me if my numbers are wrong, but I looked at the league-wide stats. Even if you look at Legio being a liability, the Bombers do have a better field goal percentage as a team and better convert percentage than the Toronto Argonauts. So even there, I even there they have a slight advantage, although that's league, that's season long, Darren. I mean, I think anybody would maybe take Boris Beatty over Legio to kick a game winner, but I think it's going to be a tight game for a while.
yep.
I
Well,
do.
and this was an earlier comment that leads into that. Tamara Harland, who's watching live on YouTube. I don't know if
Welcome,
you're still here,
Tamara.
Tamara. Great comment here. Hoping to
Yeah,
see some double QB packages from Buck Pierce. That is like that's what happens. Like
yeah,
if you want to gain an advantage in a win or go, the season's over for both of these teams, no matter what happens. So you lay it all out there. New rule this year, 2 quarterbacks. The Bombers could do Collaros Brown, Collaros Prukop,
yeah.
Prukop Brown, Prukop. Like they could mix it up a ton. So it'll be fascinating to see that sort of thing. Also wanted to mention this, Chris Joyle. What's going on, Chris? Thanks for joining us and everybody out there watching on Bonfire. How's the weather in Regina presently? I'll be honest, it's actually really nice. It's
That's the
actually
sense I
really
got. Yeah,
nice. And the forecast for Sunday is outstanding. -3 is the high during the day, dropping to -10. And how are they looking for wind? I don't think it's going to be too much of a factor. For Sunday, yeah, gusts 24 gusting to 36. So it ain't going to be like the Grey Cup in Regina. When was that? 2003. It was bonkers. Like it was just
2013 was a weird one. I was there with my pops, and it was actually like +1 at the beginning of the game. You
2013. Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
But then it got really freaking cold as the game went on. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah. But I think Sunday is going to be beautiful. So the run game, regardless of if it's cold or snowy or the rest, the run game is going to be big, but the pass game is going to change the game. So, we're going to keep a close eye on this. And Zach, I would love to have you on again this week.
Ooh,
We
baby.
should just bang out a few minutes here and there. I'll let you go on one of your famous tangents and take it away.
But yeah, and I like what she said about the two quarterbacks, because there was that one of the plays of the year, I think. Collaros went out wide. You remember that play? Collaros went out wide, and who threw that? Was it Prukop who threw that touchdown pass?
Hmm.
Or there was a play, I forget. I'll have to look back. If you remember this one, folks, around the bonfire, Collaros went out wide. It went to Prukop, and I think he threw a touchdown to Sean. But anyway, yeah, sure, you might see that. I mean, you're gonna save a wrinkle, right? You've talked all year, Darrin, about you don't show your cards early in the season. You don't show it in the middle of the season. These teams haven't played each other much, and they haven't played each other. I mean, Toronto and Winnipeg are very different teams now than they were. So you're gonna see some wrinkles. You're gonna see some interesting things for sure.
Yeah.
But I would take the Bombers. But I'm not turning on the games I said and saying, we should own them because we're better in every category.
You're
The
spoiled, Zach.
football is so
Your perspective
complicated.
is so skewed, brother.
Yeah. Mine is because I'm such a worrywart. Me and Kevin Sproul.
Well, you worry, I'm playing with you, but
Of course.
you worry and worry and worry, and then you expect the Bombers to just kick the living crap out of everybody. And if
I
they
certainly
don't,
want them to.
wow,
No, I do not. I expect them to kick the living crack out of BC, but not necessarily.
In the words of Mike O'Shea, football games are hard to win.
They are.
They are hard to win, even for good teams. Just want to catch everybody up. So keep it locked to Bonfire Sports. Tomorrow, East Division and West Division champions breakfasts. So chance to talk to dozens of Argonauts players in the morning, Blue Bombers players in the afternoon. The CFL awards are tomorrow, so I'll be throwing some stuff up on social media. Be sure you head to our Instagram and my Twitter as well, bonfire.sports, Bonfire Sports TV on Twitter, at Darrin Bauming. There's half of my name blocked by the Grey Cup there on the screen, but
you'll take it. It's the Grey Cup.
Follow all of that. Zach, you'll be retweeting them. And for those of you that don't have Twitter, you might as well check it out before it disappears. And you don't have to sign up or anything like that. Just go to twitter.com/Bonfire Sports TV or twitter.com/Darrin Bauming. You'll find it all there. Zach Schnitzer 48 is this young man's handle. That's Thursday with the CFL awards wrapping things up. Friday is the CFL Commissioner's State of the League address to the media. The Bombers and the Argos back on the practice field on Friday because tomorrow's sessions are closed. And then Grey Cup Saturday, so much happening with walkthrough, media availability, and the rest. Saturday's that day where everything kind of, for the fans and for the Grey Cup Festival, it's like a crescendo. But for the media and the teams, it's like, okay, focus in. Waking up in the morning and it's go time. Yeah. So we've got you covered top to bottom. Chris Walby will join me on Saturday. We're going to get some sort of post-game going. We'll see if I can get pulled out of the locker room, either the championship locker room or the heartbreak locker room. Yeah. We'll see how that all goes. But I took the Jets game off on Monday, Zach, so I can ensure Bonfire Sports Nation, all the fire starters out there are covered following the 109th Grey Cup.
Oh, man. And O'Shea is not going to let them wear goggles in that championship locker room, right? Because you got to get that sting in your eye.
Oh, they wore them. They wore them last year.
Did they?
Oh, yeah.
I remember hearing that O'Shea said, no, you shouldn't wear goggles or something.
Old school.
We got to go 1-0 in the locker room, then the championship locker room. We got to go 1-0 on the airplane home. He doesn't turn it off. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's going to be good. Darrin, do you have, just before you talk about the Shannons again, do you have a pick? Where are you leaning?
I said it on the waggle. I've been saying it for weeks. And look, I said it earlier today because I've been thinking it for months. Anything less than a Grey Cup championship will be a huge disappointment for this franchise. And I say that in a positive tone.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they lose and
everyone
it'll be
agrees.
awful. No, the expectation is firmly that they will win. And I expect them to win. Zach Collaros, 70%, 90%, 110%, whatever cliche you want to put on it. It doesn't matter. Winnipeg knows how to win, and their number one enemy, this is what I'll leave it on, Zach. The Blue Bombers' number one enemy in between them and a third straight Grey Cup is themselves. If they don't beat themselves, I don't think anybody can beat them. So Sunday is when it all happens, and we will be watching closely, and we hope you come along for the ride here on Bonfire Sports. Shannon's Irish Pub open for the Jets game on Thursday, on Saturday with the Penguins in town. Whether you're going to the game or coming back after the game, or maybe you want to watch the game there, they have all their TVs on with the sound. Amazing food. Go check them out, even if you're just hungry, but stick around for a beverage or a few. They'll take care of you, no question. Just a saucer pass down the street from True North Square, 175 Carlton, under the streets of Winnipeg in the iconic spot, Shannon's Irish Pub and Eatery. Good times, Zach. Appreciate you, buddy.
Great times, buddy. And I wanted to say, I just love the sauce. You got to keep the saucer pass. You got to keep the saucer pass. And if anyone wants to come to my Grey Cup party, 900 Hazeldale. BYOB.
900. I thought it was 925. See you
925 Hazeldale. Let's go.
I love how that joke is stuck around all year. Well, and you know what, Zach? I'm also going to say maybe a little congratulations to you and I. Our 25th episode tonight in year one of Bonfire Midweek. I'm excited about that, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Thank
Good
you.
for us, hey. We've done pretty well, hey, buddy. Like
this show was your idea at its core.
Wow.
Finally,
I get credit. Finally, I get credit. Darrin was Darrin called me. He's like, I heard you're a big podcaster. I don't know what to do this year.
Yeah.
What should I do? I don't know anything about football or broadcasting. I might have done a stint on TSN and CFL.ca, but yeah, man, it's been great. I mean, look, we're on the cusp of a Grey Cup. We're there, which is great for everybody, whether you're a fan or not. I just can't wait to watch this game, buddy. I'll be crapping bricks. Don't get me wrong. I will be nervous. I'm not
talking to you on Sunday.
I will be doing repetitive motions and
to you, man.
Some OCD tendencies. But thank you for everyone for sticking around. Enjoy the cup. Enjoy Walby. It's gonna be great. Darrin, you and Walby is just classic. I'll be listening in, and we'll hopefully get something in before the game. Enjoy the game, folks. This is awesome, and thanks for joining the chat. Tamara, I'm glad you're going to be there. Mr. Halleck is here. Hello, Mr. Halleck.
Well,
we got all the big guns.
We're just signing off. Anyway, take care, everybody. I need to get the podcast up, but keep it locked to Bonfire Sports. We got you covered this week. Thanks, Zach. Love you, brother. Enjoy.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Ciao.